Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sanibel Captiva Guide podcast. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Phyllis Gresham, who's the president of the Sanibel Captiva Audubon Society. She's following along with me here. And Catherine Britton, who is the vice president. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Well, actually, Phyllis, you've been here once before. You're our second time guest.
Oh, I have.
Which in your other life is right. Tell everybody what your other life. Well, what you were on before.
Well, I was here with Dana Detmar from Natural Resources for the city, and I was just the oldest standing up member of the vegetation committee.
Right. So yeah, we did a whole episode about the vegetation committee and all about the vegetation on the island. So check that one out if you haven't seen it
and
yet.
Actually, this connection that I found in the history of Audubon to the vegetation committee.
Oh, okay. So
awesome.
That'll be interesting to learn about.
Okay, so tell us, for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about the Audubon Society and what it does and what it represents and how the Sanibel Captiva version fits into the big picture.
Well, you want me to do this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, actually, this Audubon was first founded in 1953. So next year will be our 70th anniversary. And there was a man named Ben Boyce who was a naturalist and a biologist, and he decided that would be a good thing to do. And so the first year they had a summer bird count, and then they had two research projects. One of them was titled, I believe, The Shell Islands of Sanibel, and the other was a vegetation kind of
so not project. To do with birds.
No, not necessarily. And so then in 1974 they actually incorporated with National Audubon. But as an Audubon society, they had innumerable activities over the years. So
okay, so let's go back even before that. So Audubon Society was obviously before that was how your group was, but
right.
the original, the National Audubon Society.
Yeah, I can't tell you a date for that. Can you? It started in Boston.
I mean, what was its purpose? So, I mean, its general purpose.
The purpose was obviously for the conservation of birds.
Yeah, and
the saving of birds that were being rampantly shot everywhere for all kinds of purposes. And the woman in Boston, whose name I can't remember, but I can see her face, she was calling attention to the fact that women were decorating their hats with bird feathers and sometimes actual birds and stuffed, I guess. And so she said, nope, enough of that.
Right, and they went obviously for the really colourful, bright feathers that were...
Yes, but very popular for that kind of a decoration would have been egrets.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And...
in this area,
yeah.
But,
Uh-huh.
It affected the whole country, though, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Right.
And
she just brought
species.
attention to it, and then all kinds of laws went into place.
Yeah, because they would literally just slaughter the birds for the actual feathers, not for the meat, not for anything else, just actually. Yeah.
And if you go to the refuge, the National Wildlife Refuge, in the education center, you can see a replica of Ding Darling's studio, and there's a boat there. I think the boat is still there. I'm not sure. And it shows you the way they used to mount the guns on the back of the boat to just mow down hundreds of birds.
It looked like a big, huge canoe with a shotgun that was the size of. It would just fire out, and it could kill a whole flock of birds. And it would shoot the canoe backwards.
That was actually a job. A plume. They were called plume hunters.
Yeah, actually, and they nearly took out many species to near extinction. So. Yeah.
Wow.
So
who was John? It was John Audubon. Yeah. Is that? Can you tell everybody about him, Catherine?
An early naturalist who, of course, back in those days there were no roads or few roads, so transportation was hard. So he walked a lot, hiked around, studied birds, which did require shooting them. Cameras were very large back then, so not something you could pack easily. And then would skin them, study them, name them, often after cronies. So a lot of birds bear names of friends of John James Audubon.
Oh, really?
And Audubon himself.
What time frame is this? Do you know?
I'm going to say 1800s, but it could be earlier. I don't remember.
Definitely.
Yeah. And he was not the only one, not even the first one, but he was an artist. And so he did beautiful illustrations.
Right. Yes.
And I think that's probably what people will always remember him for.
Yes.
Are his incredible drawings and paintings of birds.
Right. Yeah. We actually have a friend whose father collected a bunch of the Audubon prints.
Very valuable.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't he do anatomy as well? Was he would draw the anatomy of the birds?
I think that he did do that as well.
He studied it. Yeah.
Yep. Incredible. Yeah. So, what is your month to month? How often do you meet? What do you do? What are your duties within the Sanibel Captiva?
The Sanibel Captiva Audubon has always had a board of varying numbers of people. When it originally started, there was a woman named Opal Combs.
Right, I've heard that name.
Heard that
yes.
name? And she felt that programming for people who were here on the island, and just about everybody was right here on the island. She occasionally met somebody on the ferry that would come over to talk, but most of the time they had programs, lectures, they had bird walks, they had vegetation tours, because they did concentrate a lot. Well, see, I mean, when you look at the island, the important thing is to look at, it's not just birds and it's not just shells and water, but it's a whole habitat.
Right.
And
it's a
so
whole ecosystem.
It is, absolutely. And birds need food and shelter and habitat and protection. And so that was a very early focus. And I think that's why they included so much vegetation. They actually had a Audubon vegetation group, which then translated through SCCF to the Sanibel, the vegetation committee as part of the city, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, and speaking of Opal Combs, did her and her husband, Willis, they had their own like botanical garden.
They had an arboretum at the end of West Gulf. In fact, they were very influential in a lot of things. But one of them was not cutting through to the then being developed Gulf Pines.
Right.
From West Gulf. So
that's where their property was.
Yes.
And I've read a story about how they stood there in front of the bulldozers.
Right. Yes, indeed.
And Willie with his shotgun. And like, you are not coming through here.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
And so they were really active and for a number of years. And Opal, as I say, was their what we would now call their our program chair.
Right. Huh. Yeah. I know even their botanical garden, they would have signs and people would come actually walk around. It was free to the public.
I think it was Willis maybe, or Ben Boyce, who the city wanted, or someone wanted to, because the city, of course, hadn't been incorporated, they wanted to put a ditch all the way across Sanibel from Pine Island Sound to the Gulf. And they, I think, probably laid down and said, no, we're not going to do that either. Because it would disturb habitat and create all kinds of problems as they perceived it. So
interesting. Yeah, that's a cool story.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of
to show.
Well, actually, I think the coolest story is Bob Sabatino. Did you ever know him? He was a fishing guide. Right, he was a fishing guide, and he died, I think, not too long ago.
Yeah, it's 2018, I believe.
Yeah, he was a very active Audubon member, and he had a pet barn owl. And for the meetings at the community house, which has been a center for meeting for years, he always brought his barn owl to the meetings, and it hushed the crowd when the barn owl took a few flights back and forth over the Probably. You know how high that ceiling is back and forth across
Yeah.
there.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Very cool.
So you mentioned the community house of Catherine. You still meet at the community house?
Well, not during pandemic days. We've been doing our programs via webinar.
Gotcha. Right. And you're still doing it that way?
We are. We're finished for this year, but we do them usually about 8 of them, starting in January, ending at the end of February. And we tried 2 this year in the community house. I think people were still being very cautious, and we didn't have great turnout. And we bring speakers in sometimes from a distance.
Gotcha. So it's easier with Zoom.
To drive all the way and have a. So we use Zoom.
Gotcha. How many members do you have at the moment?
Well, that's the cool thing, because we don't have members. Now, at one time we did, but what we realized was that there were everyone who came here, because the population has changed, and we don't have just people who are here, live here on the island. We have people who come for the winter season. That's why, as Catherine said, our lecture series has just been January and February. And so for a time, we realized, I think, that most people belong to an Audubon in their own area.
Gotcha. So they were members already.
Yes. And so the collecting of dues, the enumerating of people's names, and all that became way more. Mm-hmm. I think it probably took away, in fact, I know it detracted from the real business of Sandcap Audubon.
Right, which is everybody, like-minded people joining together and discussing things and learning things from each other.
And doing bird walks.
Right.
Yep. Which is a very important part of our programs. So actually, no, we don't have members. And I think that's very well acknowledged by both National Audubon and Florida Audubon. They just assume, you just function the way you function, and you
it's
do
worked
what
all
you
these
do,
years.
And how nice is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. So talk about the bird count. You mentioned that quickly, so let's go on.
Oh boy, the first bird count was 1960. There were 44,000 birds counted. And
that's just on Sanibel or Captiva as well?
Yes, but I think that as I talked to our bird, the person who arranges our Christmas bird count is Bill Jacobson. And I talked to him yesterday to check on something, and he surmises that back in that time, they sent boats out around to some of the islands, and certainly up to maybe North Cap and Captiva, to make sure that they would in that way just stop and think about the huge numbers of pelicans and everything. So now we're down to more like in the last few years between 10 and 15,000.
How do they count? How do they count the birds?
Well, Catherine, we all do it. We have more volunteers for our Christmas bird count than anybody anywhere.
And is this on Christmas Day?
No, it's
Saturday before Christmas.
Saturday before Christmas.
It's always the Saturday before Christmas.
We do it. This is an international event. Yes. Christmas bird counts are done everywhere, and certainly all across the country.
So what do? You have people stationed at different areas, and they all count at the same prescribed time, or
it's divided up, and there's a window of days, maybe 3 or 4 days, and I'm sure that's true with other Audubons as well. So it's how accurate is it? I think it gives a general picture.
Right.
Kind of like a census, I guess.
Yeah,
it is. It's a little bit less accurate than the census because birds don't register anywhere.
Right.
So, they don't live in the same house.
Right. And they have wings, so they move around. So we each have areas of the island that we cover. I cover a section of the beach, and I have my little crew who comes out every year with me, and they're very dedicated. And we walk from the moorings to Gulfside City Park.
Okay.
And we call out 3 brown pelicans, 2 willets.
Oh, and somebody is there.
Somebody's recording. And then we take that back to Bill Jacobson, Jake, who's back at now SCCF
headquarters, right?
Yes, and he's aggregating all of this information that comes in from people all over the island. But here's the thing. So we're doing that section of beach and counting the 3 pelicans that fly, and there's somebody east of us
Doing the same thing.
Counting those same
Oh,
things.
that's true.
So it all gets loaded into eBird, which is a fabulous program that most birders are familiar with. It tabulates birds, and you can check rarities and do all kinds of things with it. So it goes in there, and I'm sure there's an algorithm that they compensate for the fact that this is a small island. That they can adjust the numbers, because that happens even on a normal day. I go to the refuge and do my list and submit it, and somebody's with me who I don't know submitting the same list. So there are not 15,000 tricolored on the island. So
they're just moving around.
But it's great. It's great fun.
And so what's happened with the numbers? Are there certain birds that have flourished and certain birds that are, what's
this year, believe it or not, the two birds that were down in the count were brown pelicans and tree swallows. Now, tree swallows, as Catherine knows, you could see 1,000 of them up there. And that 1,000 could go, if I saw them over my backyard, they could then quickly fly over the Bailey tract. And maybe the person there would be able to see them. Osprey are different. We could go around and count those pretty carefully because at the time that we count them, they're pretty much returning to their platforms. And most of them here on the island do nest in platforms. And so that's easier. I do Woodring Point, and one of my sons is here, and we drive around, take a look at them. And
a note on the tree swallows, they are insectivores. So bird numbers are down. There's been a study that was done and published, and most people have seen it, that there are 3 billion fewer birds today than there should be, based on how many there were in the 70s. So obviously we lose a lot of birds every year. Migration is very treacherous, and many birds do it twice a year. There are tremendous numbers of deaths. There's natural. That's supposed to happen, or we would be awash in birds.
Right. The movie, The Birds. Yeah.
But it's other factors have contributed.
Obviously, loss of habitat.
Loss of habitat is huge. Food. We don't want mosquitoes here. Clearly, we do spray for mosquitoes, but mosquitoes are a food source. So birds will go somewhere where there's food.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that's why birds migrate. I mean, those birds that, like the red knots, that go a lot of. There are a number of birds, and I cannot tell you how many, that nest in the high Arctic. And the reason for that is it's a very short period of time. There aren't a lot of predators. And the insect population, if you've ever been in Alaska in that time of year, there are huge numbers of insects. And that's what birds, as Catherine said, they eat insects. And so here, that's why we make such a big deal out of, if you plant native, you don't need to fertilize. Right. Don't fertilize, you're going to draw insects. And it all fits together. It does.
There are also our shorebirds that eat the little bivalves, the little coquinas, and the willets, the sanderlings, and the Gulf is having a tough time too. There's certainly been red tide naturally occurring, but getting worse, and it's huge kill-offs of shellfish. And so,
interesting. So if anybody wants to participate in the bird count, Christmas, do you welcome people to come out?
Absolutely. Because we have run a number of ads in the paper asking people if you'd be interested in, just call, and it's usually Jake.
Okay. And they'll put you. Will they join you up with the group? Or
so what date is the count? What date is the count?
This year was the 15th.
You said the September before?
No,
that's Saturday. I'm sorry. Yeah,
before Christmas.
Saturday before Christmas.
Right, and then it's published on this eBird.
Yep. And in our paper. So
eBird has an app as well, doesn't it, where you can download, and it's a great resource if you want to check out books and
so it's just the letter E and then bird.
And bird. Yeah, it's run by Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And All About Birds is their website, which is really rich in information.
You can look them up by call, by color, by size, by groups. It's a really for somebody who's not too knowledgeable about birds, it's a go-to for me if I'm looking something up.
Yes. This year, the Saturday before Christmas is Christmas Eve.
Oh, so you might.
They'll probably push it back one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
everybody.
The 17th.
So it'd be a good family event if you got a big group of people down here. So
exactly.
something they could do.
Right.
Yeah.
Because kids are very good at spotting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
They
good.
have the good eyes. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you need binoculars or you just,
It helps.
it helps?
A lot.
I think it helps quite.
Yes. Somebody in the group has got
Right.
yeah.
And
And you can
knowledge
actually
of
get
what
a-
you're looking
And
at.
knowledge. Yes, and
Right.
we do have team leaders and area
can help you
leaders,
out.
and
Yes.
so there's
Right.
sort of a hierarchy. So
Right.
there'll be somebody in the group that knows what it is.
So, and what is your website too, so everybody can look up?
And
where
Catherine is our website.
webmaster, I guess.
Yes.
And what is your website, Catherine?
Yeah, it's san-cap.audubon.org.
And spell Audubon for people, because sometimes
Audubon.
right, everybody misses out that
Yes, they
second
do.
U.
They do. Audubon.
Audubon. San-cap Audubon or Audubon .org. Okay,
.org.
so
Yes,
get that too.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Right.
Fantastic.
And then do you do birding walks as well as part
We
of your?
certainly do.
So who
Every
wants to talk
Saturday.
about that?
Well, I mean, we could both talk about
Yeah.
it, but I mean, they've been doing birding walks forever, but ever since Audubon first started here. And our walks we really are the only people who do walks. The refuge does walks, but they're just at the Ding Darling. And so we go not just here on the island, we also go to Bunch Beach. We've been to Harns Marsh. We're going to Lakes Park.
Yeah. They're every Saturday morning. Again, beginning in January. They run into the beginning of April when the warblers, we hope, are coming through. They're not really coming through so much anymore, sadly, or they didn't last year, but who knows. So yeah, and they're listed on the website.
And again, anybody's welcome.
Anybody's welcome. You don't have to have binoculars. Your enjoyment will be increased if you have them.
Definitely.
But usually a few of us have birding scopes. So if you don't have binoculars, there's an opportunity to look at a bird. If it's stationary, you can get it in a scope and look at it, like the eagles.
Right.
Yeah, they're great. And we do submit those to eBird as well. So the lists are there. Somebody keeps a list. And,
Right. How long do they normally last, the walks?
About 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just a quick message before we get back to the show. We put a ton of effort into bringing you quality content, so if you would like to help us share our love of the islands, here are several easy ways. Firstly, you can support us on Patreon. You could purchase an island souvenir from our Etsy store. You can metaphorically buy us a coffee, which is an easy way to donate a couple of bucks.
Don't you prefer tea?
Well, I do, kind of. Also, like and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all things Sanibel and Captiva. And finally, show some love to our sponsors. Let them know we sent you. All the links are in the description below. Now, back to the episode.
And the cool thing is that in conjunction with that thought and the binoculars, we've had a long relationship with the Sanibel Library. And this year, we added 4 birding bags that have birding guides, Audubon birdwalk lists, binoculars, and some other information about birding. And then just this past year, we added 2 kids' bags.
All right.
And the binoculars are really excellent. And they have some coloring sheets. And Bill Thompson, who was with Bill Thompson III, who was a very a fantastic birder. He came here a couple of times and spoke at the refuge, he and his wife. But he has wrote a book on birding for young people's guide to birding. And so they provided us with a couple of copies for that.
So that's in the bag.
For the bag.
Oh,
Yep.
neat.
It is. And these are very popular. Margaret told me that they've had 57 checkouts of these bags.
Right. So
That's
basically,
awesome.
at the library, it's all in one big tote
Yeah, and
bag.
it has, and it's
Everything
on its
you
own
need.
display.
Right. And then
you can check it out on your card.
Right. And if you don't live here, you can become a member of the Sanibel Library for $10.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then you can go check out the bag and so it's just like checking out a book.
And if you've got a child that's interested in birding, which we hope, and that was one of Bill Thompson's big deals. You know, he was very enthusiastic about getting kids to do birding. Then you can bring your child along with their binoculars.
Very cool.
That's super
So
fun.
how did you guys get into birding? How was that just a natural interest, just something that you've always done, or you...
Catherine, you want to start?
Yeah, not always done.
No?
Definitely, regretfully, because I lived for a while in the Virgin Islands, and I would have seen
Oh, wow, yeah.
All right,
It's
now you
beautiful
can't
out
skip
there.
over that. How did you end up there, and where were you?
Just my father. I was 10 when we moved down there, so it was not my decision, but that's where we ended up.
And where were you?
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
We used to go there on cruise ships.
Yes, we worked on cruise ships, so I'm sure you remember.
Did?
Yes.
Yes. We used to sneak onto the cruise ships.
You did.
Back when you could do that kind of thing.
What, just to walk around? Or would you steal some from the buffet?
No, I didn't think of that, but no, just to sort of see the other side.
Right. Yeah. And how long were you there?
5 years.
What did your dad do for?
He was in construction, and he chartered boats and just did sort of island things.
Really?
Oh, very cool.
So do you have good memories of that?
Yeah, it was remarkable back then. There were very few dial telephones. There was one television station that came on at 4 and went off at 10 when the electricity was on. Yeah, it was
That's
pretty
really
rustic.
Cool.
Yeah, but regret because there were some remarkable birds, I'm
down
sure.
there.
But
right.
I don't know. I've only been birding probably less than 10 years. And I think always looked at them, but I thought a sparrow was a kind of bird. You know, I didn't realize how many different sparrows, or that finch was a kind of bird.
That's where my shelling is at, that sort of level. Yeah, I know that's maybe a scallop, but there's 75 variants of scallops. Yeah.
And are you a full-time resident on the island?
No.
And tell us where are you?
Vermont.
So lots of birds in Vermont too?
There are lots of birds in Vermont. Yeah, some of the same birds, actually. Maybe even the exact same birds if they migrate through. But yeah, we do have.
Yeah.
Birds migrate.
Rarely
same 20-somethings. Max just got back from Vermont skiing.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't see many birds flying around in negative 20-degree weather.
No, probably not.
They're smarter than that. Yeah.
Even they're tucked up in bed.
Right.
Yeah.
And how did you find Sanibel? How did you end up here? What was the connection?
I had in-laws that lived in Naples. And so we would go down and see them. And then I just was looking at a map one day. I said, my God, there's a national wildlife refuge on Sanibel. So we thought, well, we'll just drive out before a spring training game and just take a look, which, of course, you don't just swing by Sanibel in season. So it took us most of the time just to get here.
Right.
And then we finally got to the refuge. It's like, oh my God, we don't even have time to go in. But
Oh, dear.
but I was sort of hooked because I thought, well, these are my people. These people do their own yard work. Like these people.
There you go.
Not that there aren't some in Naples who do their own, but it was a whole different deal.
Yes.
So,
for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
very
that's
cool.
awesome. That's awesome.
And we know, Phyllis,
Well,
What's your
I
story
first
again?
really started birding. My dad was very much an outdoor person, and my grandfather as well. So we spent a lot of time outside, different places, mostly around New England. And so my husband was doing a sabbatical in Boston, and so we decided where I spent all my summers on the Cape. And so we decided that we would find a place to rent on the Cape, and he could just take the bus up to Boston every day. So the Sandwich High School was doing a adult ed birding class, and in the was fall into the winter, and so I took it. And it was oh my gosh.
You took the deep dive.
I did indeed, yes.
Very cool.
Excellent.
I know we talked about your last name is Gresham, and I said, are you any relation to the author?
And you said really don't want to hear that story
I do. You said there's a good story.
We're talking about Audubon.
Well, we can do a side. We can do a side trip.
It may not be appropriate, Laurie.
No, it might not.
Oh, so we have to wait till we're off camera.
You do.
So if you run into Phyllis out there, ask her. Her name is Gresham.
right, Max, have you got anything for us?
I do indeed.
Okay.
I think you guys, Mom and Dad, may be screwed today. I'm going to be honest.
Really? Well, that wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to claim to be a birding aficionado.
All right.
Just raise the paddle if you know the
Yeah.
answer.
Well, no, we have to write our answers down.
Oh, sorry, pass
Yeah.
one down. There we go.
There you go.
All right. So we've got some birding forward trivia questions today.
Okay.
So,
I'm going down.
yeah, you're going down.
Big Bird.
this
Is
mic.
Big Bird on there?
I think I'm
Big
going
Bird
to look
is
like Big Bird.
Not Big Bird. That would have been too obvious. All right. Can
That
everyone
would have
hear
been
me?
easy,
I'm a little
though.
loud.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Here we go. That's much better. All right. First question. Dad, you hydrated? Ready to go?
I think so.
Of these three birds, only one is observable year-round on Sanibel and Captiva. Which is it?
Got it.
Yeah, he's going to give us a choice.
I don't need a
hopefully.
choice.
Yeah.
I know one.
All right.
Okay.
Give us multiple choice, Max.
The mottled duck, neotropic cormorant, burrowing owl.
Oh, see, mine's not on there.
Which of these is... Hide your answers, Phyllis.
I'm not looking.
Phyllis, hide your answers. My mom's going to steal them from
I'm
you.
not looking, I promise.
So, which of these is observable year-round?
So A is the duck, B is the cormorant, and C is the burrowing owl. Right?
Yep.
No, you got to spell it.
Oh, gosh. We have to spell it right?
You do not have to spell it right.
All right, Nick.
So it's mottled duck, neotropic cormorant, burrowing owl.
I'm going for burrowing owl because why would you want to keep digging holes?
I'm going for the cormorant. Phyllis?
I'm going for the cormorant too.
And I'm going for the mottled duck because I don't think we have neotropic cormorants here at any point in the year. And we
Mottled
we
duck.
have burrowing owls.
You're
Mottled
right.
duck is the answer.
Wow.
There is no-
Yay.
Good
That
job.
was
I
the
was going to
trick.
say cardinal because we do have
that's
cardinals
true.
all year.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of. There's a lot of them.
But so right,
That was the trick. There was
It was
the
the
neotropic
Yeah,
cormorant.
I
We
should
do
have
have
known that.
We do have the other cormorant.
Double-crested.
Double
We
crested
do
year
double
round.
crested, right.
Good
job,
call. Good
Catherine.
Yeah, I
call.
forget
Impressive.
there's a neotropic cormorant.
And I did not know
Jeez.
the. I'd never heard of the mottled duck. I'm going to be honest, but
Yeah.
that is a year-round one.
It's endemic, so it's a special one here.
Yes.
Really? Okay. And the burrowing owl was once observed on Sanibel and Captiva,
was.
but no longer.
Oh, really?
Right, which
I would have never guessed. I thought it was here.
right. But if you're interested, go check out Cape Coral.
Absolutely.
They have lots of burrowing
they
owls over
have.
there.
We used to do that with the Christmas bird count. We used to help out over with Fort Myers, Audubon, and do Cape Coral. And I've done the Cape Coral Citizen Survey for burrowing owls. I think we saw at least 500.
They're amazing.
They
Laurie was at
are so cute.
They are
just
the
don't
cutest things ever.
How are they so abundant, like less than 2 miles away, as the bird flies, and just non-existent here?
Lots of empty lots.
It's the high ground, the sand. But I mean, we have a lot of vegetation on the island, and so the island has about 9 ecologic zones. None of them really are burrowing owl habitat.
Gotcha.
You see lots of them on empty building lots.
You do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Absolutely,
Right.
and people love them.
And
Yeah,
Cape
they're so
Coral has done a
cool.
great job
They
of protecting them now too.
They
So
have
which
a
just
burrowing
makes
owl society.
yes.
They claim to have the world's largest population of the Florida burrowing owl.
but I'm sure
Really?
they do.
Now, the Florida burrowing owl
It's
only
only in
exists in
Florida.
Florida.
Okay.
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless, it is the world's
Was that a
largest.
There you
trivia
go.
question, Max?
Oh.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
You
I
have to
just went to
watch
the
him.
Burrowing Owl Festival, which
Oh,
was a
yeah.
couple weeks ago. It
Right.
was great if
Yeah.
you're down here. And during the Burrowing Owl Festival, I
and
definitely
you
check it
probably
out.
know
Yes,
that
yes.
people build little houses for them and perches, and something happens to one of them. Oh my goodness. They come running out and tell you all about, well, our owls today have done da-da-da.
Right. They become
When you're
like
doing the survey.
part of the family.
Yeah, so cool.
They are
All right.
adorable.
Next question.
All right.
This large white bird has a massive average wingspan, second only to the California condor
Mm-hmm.
That-
among North American species. What is it?
Oh, you gave us an easy one, Mac.
You're screwed on the last one.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
I should have said.
Oh.
I just put W. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So tell us what yours. Phyllis, you go first. What'd you have?
I had the white pelican.
And Catherine?
American white pelican.
She went for
and it would be American.
Yes. And I just put white pelican.
I said Sanibel American white pelican.
You did not.
I would like to clarify, in my research, I found that there is an American white pelican and then a great white pelican. The great white pelicans live not in America.
Not in America.
But occasionally show up here.
Yeah, they have been spotted
One.
on Sanibel.
Yeah.
Yes, and Merritt Island.
Yeah.
I saw
Really?
that.
Probably the
What's the
same.
difference?
You haven't seen it
Bigger?
this year.
Bigger.
The bill is different looking. It's
way
sort of
bigger.
colorful, and they're massive.
So which is bigger, the American white pelican or the other one?
The great white
Great
pelican.
white
The great
pelican.
white. Oh,
That's crazy.
wow.
Yeah.
So is
So
the great
did none
white
of us get
pelican?
a point then?
No, we all did.
Oh, okay.
Is the great white pelican bigger than the California condor?
Oh gosh.
I don't know.
All right, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the condor is the biggest because when you look at that, it always says
Hard
the
to
condor.
say,
I
though.
think.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It makes sense because it's a soaring bird, so it would need big wings.
Yeah.
All right.
Is this the last question? All right. So scores on the door. Catherine 2. The rest of us 1, I think.
Yeah.
So
All right.
if we all get this and Catherine doesn't, we tie.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
1,000 points for
All
everyone.
right.
This is getting serious though, so don't show Laurie your answers. She will.
All right.
Keep it covered.
Here we go. 3 of these birds have been spotted at least once on Sanibel and Captiva. The last one is completely fabricated. Spot the outlier. So this is a list of 4 birds. One of them doesn't exist.
It's not really a bird?
Nope. Not really a bird.
Gosh.
So
okay.
we're gonna write down the one that's
That is not the bird.
Not a
Okay.
real
Not
bird.
a bird.
Okay.
Well, it is a bird. It's not a real bird.
Oh. All right. Go
Okay.
for it.
Bird.
All right.
It must be a
big
go.
bird.
It must be a
A is the canvas back.
Mm-hmm.
B is the gyro gear loose. 3 is the fulvous whistling duck.
These are not birds.
4 is Wilson's phalarope.
What was that second one?
The gyro gear loose.
Gyro. I don't know how to spell that. Can we
Just put
just
B, put
make
B.
up?
If that's the one you want to pick, put B.
All right. Run through them one more time, just quickly.
Well, A, the canvas back. B, the gyro gear loose. 3, fulvous whistling duck. 4, Wilson's phalarope. I said A, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
It's A, B, C, D.
We
Sorry.
got it. All right. I'm interested in your answer, Nick.
I'm sure you would be, Laurie, because you don't have one yourself. I've got B, the gyro gear loose.
I put B, the gyro gear loose, too.
I put B
Yeah.
too.
Me too.
That is correct. And it didn't occur to me that that was a play on words that made it so obvious.
Yeah.
Until I just read it out loud, which makes me feel so stupid because it's so obvious.
What? Like a goose?
Gyro, like a gear, like a gyro. A
Right.
rotating gear is loose.
Gyro gear loose. But where did you get that word from?
Gyro gear loose is Duckburg's most genius inventor. He is from a cartoon character created in 1952 for Disney Comics, an anthropomorphic chicken. He is part of the Donald Duck universe.
Gyro gear.
Gyro gear loose. I can't believe I didn't realize that was a play on words until I read it out loud. That made it so easy.
Well, that means Catherine is the
Gosh
winner.
darn it.
So she
Well
gets-
done. Ring the bell.
Catherine,
Ring the bell. Come on. There we go. Excellent. Round of applause. There we go. Excellent. Good
That's
job.
why
Good job.
Catherine is here.
That's good.
That's right.
Wins.
It was the first answer that did it. First
Right.
answer.
I had a question. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite bird, Catherine?
I don't. I have many.
But like children.
Many.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I really can't. The one raptor, one warbler. I can't. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
you can't. Same as you, fellas.
Yeah, I think so too. I spent a large part of one summer watching a plover. Which plover? What now? I don't even remember. Maybe a morning plover, a morning warbler nest, and so maybe that was it. And birds that I've had a hard time finding, sometimes I say, oh, thank goodness I found you. But I think, no, it's hard. Yeah. And it's like Catherine said, raptor, different warblers, wading birds.
What's the Grille bird on Sanibel that everybody wants to see?
I think for me, it's the swallowtail kite, which has just come back.
Do you agree,
for birders who live here, we look forward to it because it nests here. So it comes back in the spring along with the black-necked stilt, which, by the way, I saw at the Bailey track the other day. But I think for people visiting the roseate spoonbill, when I'm out at the refuge roving, that seems to be the one. Mm-hmm. But other birders come for the mottled duck because it is an endemic and it's not an exciting looking.
What does that
duck.
mean, endemic?
Here, specific to here. Yeah, native to here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how would you tell that duck from another duck?
Oh, God. You just opened up the biggest can of worms.
Look up a picture.
Asking, how do you bird?
Yeah, but if you're here and you see what looks like a female mallard, you're probably looking at a mottled duck.
Yeah. Okay.
And what does a female mallard look like?
That's a brown duck.
Duckbill. Looks like a duck. Sounds like a duck.
I just saw, actually, funny enough, I saw one flying down a pair of ducks flying down Lingren or going down the bike path, and
Is this a joke?
No,
this sounds like the start of a joke.
I wish it was a joke, but I was bored sitting in traffic, and it actually flew out of the canopied bike path straight across the road, and I thought it was going to hit a car, but it didn't. Just went straight over. Yeah, it could have been. I'm going to look up a mottled duck.
Yeah.
Oh, do they have a blue feather?
Yeah.
Wow, that is weird.
We've got to put a picture up.
We'll have to put a picture up now. Yeah. There we go.
Wait, and how about the bird that what's the bird you're still looking for? Do you have one, or same thing again?
Mangrove cuckoo.
Everybody talks about mangrove cuckoo.
Mangrove cuckoo?
Yeah.
Yes.
You haven't seen one yet?
That was what Ken was saying. Ken the birder, he was saying that was his Grille bird. But
I have seen probably 20 of them.
Oh,
but
I just saw one the other day. I had a friend here visiting from Connecticut, and he and his wife is not so much a birder, but Peter and I were out on the drive, and we were looking, and he hadn't seen Western sandpipers, so he was looking for those, and then he said, "Oh, look at it! There's something rustling in the mangroves right over there." And we looked, and oh my gosh, that cuckoo sat there. Then it turned, so we got a perfect profile, and it was like, and I said, "Yes, good for you, Peter."
Do you have picture evidence?
No, but two people saw it. But I used to do on Fridays. They did birding surveys out on the drive. This was a number of years ago. And you would go out and play the calls, and then at a number, 5 or 6 different spots along the drive. And then it was the mangrove cuckoo, the black-whiskered vireo, the gray kingbird, the prairie warbler, and the...
So these were the calls that you would actually put out.
And you can hear a mangrove cuckoo return that... Bonita. I mean, they have a very, it sounds like, oh my gosh, it has the most incredible voice, and which it doesn't use very often except during the mating season.
Right. So he was looking for a mate.
And just worth noting that it is not legal now to callbacks in refuge. National wildlife.
They no longer do this.
That is good to put out there.
Don't do that.
Right. Because there's lots of apps now that you can have the birds.
Absolutely. Play the call. And the birds usually do come in. But if they're on nests, they can abandon a nest to go find out who the intruder is. It takes them, they deflects them from feeding and doing things that they need to be doing. So it's disturbing to them.
And actually, there is an article coming out in the paper very soon in the Island Sun about birding ethics. And that's one of the things that we do not allow callbacks. And Lee County has an ordinance that forbids that. We maybe need to make that even more.
Yeah, I did not know that.
No, I didn't know.
Yep.
No, I've been calling for gyro gear loose everywhere.
And could you play that call for us?
And when you know what that call is, would you let us know?
Yeah, so we can find.
You need to submit it to eBird so you've seen a population of them.
That's funny.
Anything we missed out on? Anything? You're just welcome anybody to come join you in these boardwalks.
Definitely.
At the programs.
Yep. Join in the programs.
Check out the website.
Yeah.
And
fan-capaudubon.org.
And see what we're going to do next year, because we might do some really cool things. Right,
we will do. We just don't know what they are yet.
Right.
We haven't
They will be
decided.
very cool.
Watch this space. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. And thanks for coming back again, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Come back and join us on
We need to know the story about Phyllis's.
Yeah, Phyllis. Yeah, we're going to get that one right after. But, thanks very much for joining us on the Sandcap Guide podcast. Please like and subscribe so that you get notified of future content. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and a quick shout out to our supporters. Without our supporters, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Bailey's General Store, Doc Ford's Rum Bar and Grill, Spoondrift Island Bowls, 3 Crafty Ladies, GatorBites, Tail and Ale, Priscilla's of Sanibel, Coco y Cabana, Suncatchers Dream, and Sanibel Carts. And don't forget to reach out to Captains with Clean Water, one of our favourite island charities. Thanks very much. See you on